two guys decide to go out drinking on the night before their final exam. Still hungover from the night before, the two arrive at the university well after the exam has ended. They go straight to the professor and tell him that they couldn't get to the university on time because one of the car's tires had gone flat. Surprisingly, the professor excuses them and tells them they can come back the next day to take the exam. The two students study all night and return the next day ready for the exam. The professor leads them into separate rooms and hands them their exams. Spending the entire night studying is really paying off, as both are completing the exam with ease. As they reach the final question, their jaws drop. The final question reads, for 90 points, indicate which tire went flat yesterday. A man gets a flat tire outside the fence of an insane asylum. While he's changing the tire, he sees a patient on the other side of the fence observing him, so he hurries. He gets the flat off and puts the spare on, but rushing to get out of there, he accidentally drops all 4 lug nuts down a drain. While he's standing there staring at the spare with no lugs to secure it, he hears the patient on the other side of the fence say, "Hey, mister!" He calmly replies, "Yes." The patient inquires, "What you doing?" He explains his predicament, and the patient asks, "Why don't you just take 1 lug nut off of each of the other 3 wheels and put them on the spare to get you where you're going?" The man, surprised, says, "That's a really good idea. Why are you locked up in there? You're really smart." The patient replies, "I'm crazy. Not stupid." A man is forced to take a day off from work to appear for a minor traffic summons. He grows increasingly restless as he is forced to wait hour after hour for his case to be heard. When his name is finally called, it's late in the afternoon. He stands before the judge, only to hear that court will be adjourned for the rest of the afternoon and he will have to return the next day. "What for? I've been waiting all day!" He snaps at the judge in a moment of bad judgment. The judge is equally irked by the sharp query and says,
$20 for contempt of court. That's why.
As the man reaches for his wallet, the judge relents.
That's all right. You don't have to pay right now.
The young man replies, "I'm just checking if I have enough for 2 more words." A salesman stops at a small manufacturing plant. He presents a box of cigars to the manager as a gift.
"No thanks," says the plant manager. "I tried smoking a cigar once, but I didn't like it."
The salesman proceeds to show his product to the manager, then, hoping to clinch a sale, offers to take the manager out for a round of drinks.
"No thanks," the plant manager replies. "I tried alcohol once, but didn't like it."
The salesman then glances out of the office window and sees a golf course. "I suppose you play golf," says the salesman. "I'd like to invite you to be my guest at my club."
"That's kind of you, but no thanks," replies the manager. "I played golf once, but I didn't like it."
Just then, a young man enters the office.
"Let me introduce you to my son, Mike," says the plant manager.
"Let me guess," the salesman replies with a bitter smile. "An only child?" A college student wanted to sit next to one of his professors at lunch. However, the professor looked at the student with an arrogant face and said,
"A swan shan't be friends with a pig."
"Then I shall fly on," replied the student with a smile. The professor was clearly vexed by the cheeky reply and decided to do everything in his power to fail the student. During the oral exam, he gave the student the hardest questions, but the student had amazing answers for everything. Hoping he could still fail his victim, the professor asked him a trickier question.
"You're walking on a road and you find 2 bags. One contains gold and the other intelligence. Which bag do you choose?"
"The bag with the gold, of course," replies the student.
"Ah," says the professor. "Unfortunately, I don't agree. I would choose intelligence because it is more important than gold.
Well, sir, replies the student, I believe that is because most people would choose what they don't already have. Dave has just finished up work for the evening and is walking to his car. Suddenly, a short, rather squat-looking man appears in front of him with a gun in his hand.
Give me everything you've got!
The man screeches at Dave. So Dave hands over his money and his wallet. As the man is about to leave, Dave stops him. Say, he says to the robber, holding out his hat, would you shoot a few bullets in my hat? I don't want my wife to think I spent all my money on booze and gambling. The robber also has a wife, so he agrees and shoots a few holes in Dave's hat. Taking off his coat, Dave then says, thanks, buddy. How about a few bullets in my coat while you're at it? I want to look like I put up a fight and I was not a coward. The robber sighs and shoots a few holes into Dave's coat. Then Dave says, just one more thing. Can you please shoot?
Look, mister, I ain't got no more bullets,
says the robber. Oh, says Dave, then would you please give me everything you've got before I beat the out of you? 3 men are sitting directly behind 3 nuns at a baseball game. They can't see the game because the nuns' habits are partially blocking their view. So the men decide to badger the nuns, hoping that they'd get annoyed enough to move to another area. In a very loud voice, the first guy says, I think I'm gonna move to Utah. There are only about 100 nuns living there. The second guy speaks up and says, how about Mississippi? There are probably less than 50 nuns there. The third guy says, no, Maine would be much better. It would be almost impossible to find a nun in Maine. One of the nuns coolly turns around, looks at the men, and in a very sweet and calm voice says,
how about a place where there are no nuns at all? Why don't you just go to hell?
One night, a priest, a preacher, and a rabbi are playing a game of poker, when the cops suddenly bust down their door and arrest them all on the spot. They are immediately taken before a judge who tells them, look, it's late and I don't want to send 3 holy men to jail. So if you can give me a good reason as to why you weren't gambling, I'll let you go. The priest is the first to step forward and tells the judge,
we weren't gambling because no money had changed hands yet.
The judge decides that this is a good enough answer and lets the man go. The preacher goes next and says, we weren't gambling because we hadn't even dealt the cards yet. Again, the judge lets him go. With just the rabbi left, the judge says, and finally, can you give me a good reason why you weren't gambling? The rabbi gestures around the courtroom, empty except for the 2 of them, and asks, gambling? With whom? A mother visits her son for dinner, who has a girl as a roommate. During the meal, his mother can't help but notice how pretty his roommate is. She has long been suspicious of a relationship between the 2, and this has only made her more curious. Over the course of the evening, while watching the 2 interact, she starts to wonder if there's more between her son and his roommate. Reading his mom's thoughts, her son volunteers, I know what you must be thinking, but I assure you, we're just roommates. About a week later, his roommate comes to him and says,
ever since your mother came over for dinner, I've been unable to find the silver serving tray. You don't suppose your mother took it, do you?
He replies, well, I doubt it, but I'll email her just to be sure. He sits down and writes, Dear Mom, after visiting me, I found that my silver serving tray is missing. I'm not saying that you took it, and I'm not saying that you didn't take it, but the fact remains that it has been missing ever since you were over for dinner. Love, your son. Several days later, he receives an email from his mother which reads,
Dear son, I'm not saying that you sleep with your roommate, and I'm not saying that you don't sleep with her. But the fact remains that if she was sleeping in her own bed, she would have found the silver serving tray by now. Under her pillow.